Okay.
We're in a water.
FYI, I just hit the record button. So
If you have a cell phone near your microphone, you'll need to remove that, please.
Am I coming through? I can't see. I'm on my iPhone. I can't get in on my computer.
okay, I tried, I'm the host, so theoretically I can mute everybody. So I did do that. We had a loud noise going on.
I'm going to try again to come in on my computer instead of my iPhone.
Well, you're working right now.
Yeah, but I
Hear you and see you, Ben.
just can't see everybody at one time.
Okay. Maybe I should share a screen and get a agenda up. I'm going to try that.
A little bit this morning.
So Terry, do you want to, I can try and stop sharing and we can do introductions. Would you want to do that?
Sure. You want to call on people, Jay?
Okay. Hi, folks. I'm Jay Doyle, Baltimore County Department of Planning, and I'm the administrator for the Commission on Disabilities. Thank you for joining us today. We did change the time to 2:30 in light of the momentous occasion at the U.S. Capitol. So we have a new president. Thank you for your patience. We did lose a couple folks said they could not attend, in part because of the scheduling. David Greenberg can't join us today. Russell Weber cannot join us today, and Mary Manzoni cannot join us today. On my screen, I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to try to unmute all and see what happens. If I unmute all, maybe you all could on your own mute yourself until you're asked to speak. And next on my screen is Terry Parrish. Hi, Terry.
Hi. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to our first meeting. I'm chair of the commission.
And how about I'm going to go to Doug Smith.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. Douglas Smith, Associate Director for the Chimes.
Okay, and then how about Mr. Miller?
Good afternoon, everybody. Greg Miller, the President and CEO at Penmar Human Services. Good to see you guys.
Okay, is that John Bryan that I see?
Sure do. How are
Hey,
you?
hey, John.
Brian, current ADA coordinator and building engineer of Baltimore County.
Okay, Kathleen Durkin.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Durkin, the CEO of the ARC Baltimore. Happy New Year, everybody.
Okay, and a greeting. Larry Hughes.
Larry Hughes, Commissioner, CEO of Maryland Wheelchair Athletic Promotions, Inc. Glad to be a commissioner. Happy New Year to everyone that's here.
Excellent, excellent. Michael Tan.
Hi, Michael Tan. I am the director of the Center for Alternative and Supported Education at the Community College of Baltimore County.
Okay, Julie Gaynor.
Hi, I'm Julie Gaynor, retired special educator from Baltimore County Public Schools and Commissioner for Councilwoman Bevan's office.
Excellent. Brad Cressman.
Hello, having a little technical problems logging on to this. I logged in and out, but anyway, I hope can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'm Brad Cressman. I'm from Baltimore County Public Schools. I'm the resource teacher for our Allied Sports program. And I've been a commissioner for a couple years, and I will be happy to join for about the first 45 minutes. And then at 3:30, we have a meeting actually in our Office of Athletics to talk about the restart of hopefully high school sports and our Allied program in Baltimore County is my hope. Hopefully we're going to get that news today, but nothing official yet. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Terry Sapp.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to join you today. I'm the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for Baltimore County Health and Human Services.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us with the late notice and invitation. Carol Brown.
On.
Carol, try again.
How do I do it on my phone?
I can hear you now. There's a dial-in phone number in the email. I assume that's how you got in so far.
Karen Murphy, she must be on her iPhone.
Okay.
Carol, did you try to push the little microphone at the bottom? Hey, Jen.
Carol, do you want to just try the chat function and just say hello, see if that works? Can you hear me?
Jay, let's move on and see if Carol types in later.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. She does. She said she does hear us.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. I think what we'd like to do is I'll call up the agenda briefly.
I am very thankful. Oh my gosh. I am so thankful that we can meet virtually today. I hope everyone is healthy, safe, and this morning I'm glad that we all had a peaceful transition in our country. Thank you, Jay, for sending out the last minutes. This is not on the agenda, I believe, but if everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from September, November, and December, were there any questions or concerns about those minutes?
Can you hear me?
If not, can I have a motion to approve the September, November, and December 2020 minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as they currently appear.
Second,
Second.
I'm just going to ask for objections and assume that everyone else is in affirmative. Okay, minutes passed. Thank you. First, you want to go ahead and go over the appointments, Jay?
Yeah, I'd like to provide, we don't have a visual on the appointments, but we've spent a lot of time off and on over the past 6 months on appointments. So we presently have 8 commission members who are current in their terms and have been appointed and probably have In one case, 6 months on one term, and then the other terms should have approximately 2.5 years remaining. So that's 8 commissioners with current terms. We have submitted 6 names to the county executive. We did that about 2 months ago, and we have 6 recommended individuals to the county executive who have their applications in the Granicus system. So that's 6 additional appointments that are pending. And in the past week, we invited another 4 additional members to apply. So we are very far along in having 10 additional members with current appointment terms. I also have 3 resumes that have come in, one from Ben, one from Terry, and the Granicus portal also shows applications that come in from the general public. You may or may not know, but if you go to the commission website, and if you look pretty hard, you can find a link that says apply for vacancy. That's a little test. If anybody can find that link within the next 24 hours, you send me an email and I'll come up with some kind of prize. So it is there, okay? And it's like, you know, we can have a chat, we can recommend people that we know, people who have been on the commission, but as I saw that link, there is nothing to prevent any individual in these United States from finding that link and submitting an application to the Commission on Disabilities or any one of other 40 boards and commissions of Baltimore County. So I think that's what I have for the appointments. I'll mention one other thing. As you know, I'm somewhat new, but I've been around for a year now. But I inherited lists, and we have the Granicus portal is a new, web interface list, which is really cool and modern. I need in my responsibility a document I can manipulate at my desk, an office document that is the list. And the list has to be maintained on the Baltimore County website. So that's 3, locations where the list kind of needs to be current. Some of the Granicus emails in the web portal were old and from I don't know exactly where. That's why some of the invitations to be appointed, did not go out in a timely way. So we are maintaining those lists as we move along. Are there any questions about appointments? Mary.
First of all, I'd like to introduce myself.
Oh,
I wasn't asked to introduce myself.
I apologize.
It's okay. I'm Mary Scott. I've been on the commission, and I'm the recently elected president of the board of By Their Side, which is a nonprofit which provides advocacy for people with developmental disabilities after their family members are no longer on this planet. So if you'd like information about that for any of your friends, family members, or people you support, give me a buzz. So what is the current commission's or current commissioner's role in reviewing the applicants who are applying online to be considered for the Commission on Disabilities? The reason I'm asking this is when I took this, I agreed to take this position with By Their Side. They suggested a new board member who I had worked with for years and years and years. And I said that we cannot work with that board member, that person. She cannot be on the board because she's the ultimate obstructionist. We won't get anything done. So that makes me think about our commission. What's the process for review and approval, and who does it?
I would say at the present time, the county executive wishes to hear from myself and Terry Parrish and Ben Dubin with regard to recommending commission members. That is not written in law anywhere that I see. But as a practical matter, I feel that there's a certain amount of logic to people who have experience on the commission providing advice to the county executive. As I read the county code, the county executive has the authority to make the appointment, however he so chooses. I don't know if we have a formal process for screening applicants. And my approach coming on as a new person was to stabilize the existing membership. We have not gone far beyond existing members and recent appointments to solidify what I would call the foundation of the commission membership. Larry, are you making a signal?
Yes, I am, because I'm trying to keep my mouth closed. Jerry, stop smiling. The point is this. I agree and I disagree. Number one, to answer Mary's question, I think it should come before the executive committee to look at the person's profile who sent in the application. Then, based upon that conversation and discussion there, present those applicants to the total board as we have it then, and then put their names on the letter supported by this commission for recommendation to this board. That means that it meets the criteria in which Mary referred to, of her knowing directly of somebody that's not the best person to get things done that we do. So I think we shouldn't have any disruptions. We're starting to work together as a group ourselves. So why should we bring in any bolts? I think, Mary, I totally agree with you.
Larry, that's a very good point, and it did come up on another board that I sit on. So I think that the executive committee can take that into consideration and talk about that before the next meeting. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
Anything else, Jay?
No.
Okay.
I think we can go to the discussion of vaccines.
Actually, I just had a quick comment, and that is, I can't upload my resume through the website. I've tried it as a Word document. I've tried it as a PDF, and nothing. And I've even changed the name, shortened the name, did everything that I think of, but I can't get the resume to upload.
I had trouble with that too. Maybe we can talk about that a little later. Thank you. Yeah.
Michael, just send it to me and I'll get it in the system.
There we go. The fixer, Jay is the fixer. We thank you for that.
Pardon me, can I say a question before you go on? Jay, you need everybody's or you don't have anybody's? Because I just want to know.
You have been recommended and your application is in the system as I see it. I think we're good there.
Okay, so I wanted to know, didn't you have a resume on me or is it required for everybody again? Because I knew I sent it in before. Because one time before, Jay asked for all of those.
My understanding is that everything you need is in the system.
Okay, great.
So you're good.
Thank you.
Okay, and I did ask Jay if we could go down to discussion of physical access to the vaccine distribution sites, because there's been a lot of concerns addressed to me. Ben and I have been contacting quite a few legislators to express this concern. This is something people probably didn't think about. I mean, I use a wheelchair, I drive, and I'm in the older group. A lot of people who are younger, who have a disability, answer your phone, Mary,
Sorry.
and don't drive, we're seeing that it could be a potential problem. So we're really thrilled about Terry Sapp coming on today to speak a little bit to address some of these questions possibly. And if there are questions that you can't answer or too many questions, we can get back to you. But Terry, I'm going to let you talk about physical access to the vaccination sites.
Great. Thank you, Terry. And really, we do appreciate all of the feedback and information that you give to us, because it only helps us build a better machine. If you haven't been out there today, one of the things I'll mention is the term is PODs. You'll hear us talk about the point of dispensing, or POD. That's the mass vaccination site. A POD is really, it's a disaster medicine concept to move as many people through that process as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, one of the challenges that we have is that it's very hard to balance the operation of the pod, but to also do what we need to do, which is to make sure that we are providing vaccinations in an appropriate and safe way so that everyone has access to the vaccine. So all of your feedback that you give to us will help us do that even better. So some of the changes, I don't know if you've been through it recently, Terry. We make changes every single day. So every day when we run the pod, that night we make a lot of changes to the layout based on the feedback that we've received. So as it's running right now, if you haven't been out to the Cow Palace, I'd say in the last day or two, when you come in the front door, we now have everyone coming in through the front door, and we have parking immediately outside those doors that are for anyone that requires accessibility. So we've had the security and the police. We've been very clear with them, regardless of their license plates, regardless of their hang tag, if they indicate that they need accessibility to the front doors, that they are to direct them down to this parking area, because we know that many people are bringing their loved ones. My own father, he's 93, and he has many disabilities, including mobility. So he's one of those folks that would need to park as close to that front door as possible. We now have a team of about 10 people with, we have 16 wheelchairs that we acquired from Department of Aging, that we meet them right at the front door. And if they need assistance, we're happy to offer it. If they just need someone to walk with them, we're happy to do that as well. It's really, we let them kind of tell us, this is what we need. You know, because we've had folks say, no, I don't need a wheelchair. I just want someone to kind of walk with me. And we now have enough staff to be able to do that. So when you walk in, we have an area that we're calling ADA. If for some reason that is not an appropriate term, we're more than happy to change that. But we have an area we're calling the ADA area, where any of those folks that require extra room, for starters, and a shorter walk, if you will, are in that area. Whereas the rest of the public who have the ability to ambulate through the pod go through those other lanes. We're now up to 12 lanes. We added more lanes, not only to move people through faster, but, well, actually, no, it's to move people through faster, because, you know, we know that everybody hates waiting in line, and the faster we can move people through, the less time they're spent exposed to lots of other people, and the faster they can go back home.
Terry, Terry, excuse me for interrupting you. Is there signage there to direct people that say people with special needs or accessible entranceway?
Yes. Yeah, so we have signage right outside the front doors, as well as a sign that directs to that parking area. And we have some signage on the inside. We're in the process today of getting that translated into some other languages. And we also today had to have our language link connection up so that we did have somebody come in who spoke Korean. And unfortunately, our nurse, who is fluent in Korean, she worked yesterday, she wasn't available today, but they were able to use language link to communicate. One of the challenges we are having, I know, was with the deaf and hard of hearing community. I'm very sensitive to that because I unfortunately now fit in that category. I have a pretty severe tinnitus, and my dad is near deaf right now. So I know how hard it is to communicate because I get very frustrated myself. The Cow Palace is extremely noisy. One of the things we did have them do is we shut off the heaters overhead during the hours of operation because it's extremely loud with those heaters. We are looking into those masks that have the clear piece in front, but what we're finding is that the concern is that it does not offer the protection that a mask offers the wearer. And so we're looking at all of our options because we have to have that balance between protecting someone from being close enough that they can read the lips, but then if there is an issue of safety. So our fix in the meantime is to use, we've ordered some small dry erase boards so that we can at least communicate in that way. We did have a number of folks come through yesterday with service dogs, and obviously we allow service animals. One of them we suspect was an emotional support animal and not a service animal specifically. However, we still allowed that person through. We do know that it's an environment that creates a lot of anxiety. So if that service animal is, if that emotional support animal is allowing that person to get through and the animal behaves appropriately, and it was a very well-behaved dog, again, we allowed it through. Anything that can help folks get through the space and not have a lot of distress, we're all about that. Today, I also scoped out a nice room that is a low stimuli room. I also have 2 family members that are on the spectrum. That the pod, if you haven't been in there, it is very overwhelming. It is overwhelming to a lot of senior citizens that come in. It's overwhelming to a lot of younger people that come in, just because it's noisy, it's big, it may be something they've never seen before. We drill it every year, so folks who have come to our flu clinics are usually accustomed to it. But we are working on a low stimuli area so that if we have someone that has difficulty functioning in that larger room, that we'll be able to do that. So again, each time we do this, we're trying to kind of build onto it so that we can assist as many people as possible. I know that the other obstacle that we are encountering are folks that are really having difficulty navigating the registry and the appointment system. And I'll be honest, even I had a little trouble navigating the registry and the appointment system. Any of those individuals that need help have been calling 311. 311 has been working with the Department of Aging, and they've actually been helping those individuals make those appointments, whether they don't have technology or they just have difficulty navigating the technology. So we really do have a lot of our agencies now kind of all hands on deck, helping us with those various issues. So that's kind of the 30, well, it was more than 30 seconds, but that's kind of the rundown of kind of where we are today. We will be opening 2 other sites, hopefully. I've been scoping them out. One will be on the east side, one will be on the west side of the county. We try to pick locations that are on bus lines and as well have sufficient parking that is close to the door, because we do know with these sites, to give you an idea of the numbers, the fairgrounds, we're doing about 2,000 to 2,100 vaccinations in a 5-hour period. We turn over about 120 people every 15 minutes that we're kind of pushing them through these lanes. So it's a lot of people that we're moving through. But we also, we never rush anyone through. If someone needs that extra time, we are trying to make sure that we have enough staff that if we have to assign someone one-on-one to help someone through the process, we're committed to doing that. And I think you'll find all the staff that we have working, they've volunteered for this duty, and that they are absolutely very committed to making sure that all of our residents, especially those that need more time and more assistance, are getting the help that they need.
Terry, I put in the chat directly to you the name of Dawn Marsiglia, who's at Johns Hopkins at their hearing department. She takes care of my daughter who is deaf, and they do have clear masks, so you might get a hold of her. They probably she could give you some assistance of what equipment they use.
Great, that would be helpful, because the ones that we found online did not offer sufficient respiratory protection.
Well, I would get a hold of Dawn, so her number is right there in the chat. I'd send it directly to you.
Right, I'm just going to take a quick moment to write that down, but I see Larry's hand is up.
Larry, did you want to say something? Otherwise, I think this was all wonderful news. It sounds like you looked at many of the different accommodations, including the parking. I have a van with a ramp on the side, and being able just to tell someone there that that's possible. So, any idea? You talked about 2 other sites. They've been identified but not accepted, or when might they be available?
We're kind of working through the process now of getting the staffing and ensuring that we can get them up and running. They'll most likely be community centers. Again, one on the east side, one on the west side. We try to go with the newer ones because the newer community centers definitely have more accessibility. And we have to look at all those things. We have to look at parking. We have to look at the flow inside. We have to make sure it has everything we need to move the folks through the space. If you haven't been vaccinated yet, it's very different from a normal flu clinic because not only do everything is wireless and electronic now. It used to be the old paper system. I don't know, Jay, if you have, maybe can you put yourself on mute or something? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. So it's very different from the flu clinics in that our flu clinics are kind of a paper and pencil operation. This one is now all electronic. So there's no touch, if you will. So when you come in, there's folks with iPads and tablets that check you in based on your appointment. And then from there, you go into the vaccination lane. And from there, you go to an observation area. We normally never had to do that. Normally, you get your flu shot and out the door you go. But now, because we have 2 new vaccines that we have never used before, the CDC requirement is that you stay with us for 15 minutes afterwards in an observation area so that we can ensure that you're feeling okay. I'm happy to report, we've given over 10,000 vaccinations and we haven't had any issues to date, but obviously we're just getting rolling here. So there is that observation period. So what that means to all of us is we need a bigger footprint in the pod than we normally would. So instead of just going out the door of the gymnasium, you got to go into a whole nother area where you have to sit and be observed for those 15 minutes. And during that time, we try to make good use of it and that we have folks with tablets to go around and help you make that second appointment so that in 28 days or 21 days, depending on which vaccine you get, your appointment's already made. So you don't have that stress of, now I got to go fight to get my second appointment. That, of course, we just hope that all the vaccine shows up. That's out of our control. So we have to kind of take the leap of faith, if you will, that more vaccine just keeps on coming. But that's why when we pick our sites, there are so many different factors of what determines what type of site we can use. And it has to have enough room and enough space and enough flow that we can have all these different processes, the queue, where we don't want people waiting outside in the elements, the registration and the vaccination areas, and then the observation areas. So it's quite a operation. I can say we've been very pleased so far that at the fairgrounds, we haven't had anybody really waiting outside, I think, for more than 2 or 3 minutes. And that's usually when we first open up.
Grounds was certainly a good choice. And of the people I know that have gone, they've been very happy about that. One of my questions was, I'm very fortunate that I can drive, although they're a wheelchair user. Are some people who are going to have to book mobility? And with mobility, I've ridden County Ride, and they're pretty good about if you need to stay an extra half hour or whatever. But I don't believe mobility is. What is a realistic time frame that people that need to use mobility should book their return ride within?
I'm really glad you mentioned that because mobility is kind of a thorn in my side. I'll try to be polite about my views about MTA mobility. But you're right, they drop someone off and we've even said to them, hey, they're going to be in and out in 15 minutes. And they're like, well, they're not on my return roster. and their return ride is 4 hours later. And, to me, that gets me a little steamed. So I can't even imagine, how the rider feels to that. It really does depend, obviously, but we do our best to try to get folks through that process within 30 minutes. Sometimes folks don't always come exactly at their appointment, and we fill up a little bit. I would say, and we haven't had anyone as our guest, if you will, for more than an hour that I'm aware of. We try to time that. So, I think the bigger piece is that I'm working right now with Department of Aging to see how realistic it would be to do some strike teams that we could actually send out to these facilities such as the subsidized senior housing. I live next door to Virginia Towers and Tabco, for example. And, I'm trying to figure out how I can get some teams in there and we just do them in place instead of asking them to now have to come to us. Again, to me, that just makes sense. I'd rather they stay there where it's probably safer and more comfortable for them. We can't do that, obviously, with every senior congregate living, but I know with some of those places in particular, the subsidized housing, those are where I think a lot of our mobility clients may actually be, and that are going to need it the most. So we're kind of working up some plans on how that might go. There are so many of them in Baltimore County. I'm not sure how fast I'll be able to go through a building. So we may have to pick a building and try it out and see how well it works. And we might have to go back to the drawing board if it doesn't.
That's a wonderful idea. I do know of one building in the city where they are doing that, and they're sending a team there, I believe, to be vaccinated. But you have quite a job, and I think it sounds like you're really covering a lot of the bases, and thank you for that. Does anybody else have questions?
Yeah,
I think
Terry,
did.
Terry, when you were talking before about the mask, I was trying to tell you that TSA out at the airport, they don't allow anybody with those plastic holes that you're talking about. Plus, I would recommend you try to contact them and get their list, because they also have a list of the regular type masks that don't have that type of protection. So that would be a good guide for you to go on when you're going out asking for masks. You know what I mean? Since you're taking the responsibility of doing something, you should be a little bit more aware. I think if you get that list, that can help you. Because I know once you put the word out that you need masks for what you're going to do, you can get those. And you'll see that when you read your check.
Okay, thank you, Larry. There's someone down below, but I don't know your name because it says owner.
Julie Gaynor, go ahead.
Hi, Julie.
Okay, I have two questions. One is there any printed instructions or a video of what to expect when you get there so people don't walk in and get overwhelmed and have a problem? And then my second question is it advisable for people to sign up through the county as well as at some other, I know somebody signed up at Franklin, at MedStar, and they also signed up at the county. Does that mess up the waters if you're signed up at multiple places to see where you get an appointment first? How do you recommend that being handled?
Well, thank you. Let me address the first question. It's really funny you mentioned that. Laura Riley from Aging mentioned yesterday that they have the ability to help us make a video.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the possibility of a video for helping folks register. But I think having a video of going through the pod is a great idea. So let me make a little quick note here.
Because I saw that on the news last night, just kind of a picture. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that what it is? And I'm thinking that was the Cow Palace, but because I just walked in at the end of the story and I'm like, holy moly, how do you navigate through that? So I can imagine somebody walking in and seeing that for the first time.
Yeah, I have to admit, it can be overwhelming. I mean, it's the world I live in, but I can respect it. It is very overwhelming. So I'm going to contact Laura. I think making a video is a really great idea. So I think that's something we can definitely do that will help folks understand, what to expect when they come in. I have videos that we made on how to set one up and how to operate it, but I never thought about how to navigate through it from the public side. So thank you.
Yeah,
Now,
Terry, it's got to be, it has to be captioned also if you're going to make a video.
All of the videos that we made for our staff, even on operations, were all closed captioned. So absolutely. And I want to answer your second question. You asked about if they register at one place and they register at ours, does that goof things up?
Right.
I don't think it does. At this point, it's wherever they can get that vaccine first. It should be fine. There are so many people right now, as you all know. Demand is so high right now and supply is so low. I don't think it's going to goof us up. The fact is, if they get a link and they've already registered somewhere else and they ignore it, I don't think that'll be any issue. I think, right now, go for wherever you can to get it wherever you can.
Yeah, I think that would be computerized and programmed in for that, because this is I'm a computer programmer. That would be factored in, because right now the whole thing is of very great importance. So wherever you can get this shot in, you need to get it done. And they'll go back and say, okay, this person's already done. Anybody's got it done twice ain't going back a third time now. So that's without saying.
Terry, I saw some discussions via email about the prioritization and individuals with developmental disabilities who are not in a group home. And, that some people have seen writing that people with developmental disabilities who are not in a group home should be in a specified tier, but maybe they're not being treated that way. And I believe that Mary Scott raised that issue. Can we have a discussion of that?
I'm writing it down. Hang on a second.
Can I add to that? Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Okay, now go on, Kathleen.
Well, we're hearing a lot of different information too, because we're working, I'm Terry, I'm from the ARC Baltimore. So we have CMT staff that are priority 1A, and they're being told they can't get in. And then we have people with IDD, and we've been saying that all the people with IDD, because that's what we were told from DDA, that all people with IDD are eligible in phase 1B, but we also have about 300 people we support in a residential setting, and we're working with CVS and Walgreens through Operation Warp Speed. But now they're even telling us, oh no, you're not coming up, we're not in your status yet. And so we're getting mixed messages everywhere we go. We're instructing people to register through wherever they live. So we have some staff in Pennsylvania, we're telling them to go there, but we're asking them to register, which is different than getting an appointment. But then they're not able to get. So CMTs should have already are in 1A, and they're not able to get spots. And then, again, we're hearing mixed messages about where people with IDD. We are told by our state director that they're in 1B, but I'm hearing from families, and I know when you sign up for the registry, there is a question asking if you have IDD. So they're collecting the information, but we're still hearing that maybe they're not in phase 1B. And even if they are, there's just no vaccines available. So it's
I will have to check on the phase. That I don't know off the top of my head, because I will tell you, the phases have been confusing. I will be the first to admit that, and I'm living in this every day. I'll check to see where they were. If they are a provider, they should be included in 1A. But
if they're registered nurse or CMT, they should be 1A. But
yes.
Then the way the language varies is sometimes it says people with IDD in group or congregate living.
Okay.
Sometimes it says group home and congregate living are a higher priority than folks that live on their own or with their families, but then they are still supposed to be included in that phase B, is what we were told. I mean, Mary, I imagine that's part of your question. But.
Let me check on that, and I'll put my email in the chat box so that you have it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Because I will have to check on that. From what I understand, I know that, and it's kind of outside of my purview. of where they are collecting that information from the county website, that registry. And then from there, they push out those links based on the prioritization groups. So I'll have to check on that because I don't know that for a fact. I'll see what we can find out. I'm just going to put my email in the chat box real quick.
What is the time frame in which?
And wait a minute, Terry,
Oh,
I've
go
got
ahead, go
something
ahead,
to
Mary.
say about phases. Terry, on Friday, last Friday, I checked the registration site and there was no place to indicate that a person had an intellectual or developmental disability last Friday. So, combination of a bunch of us writing a bunch of emails to people in county government, I think may have allowed that extra question to be answered at the very end of the registration.
It's definitely on the registry.
Is confusing because you go through to register and you still go through all the different categories and you say, oh my gosh, it's still not here. And then you go down all the way down, you finish the rest of the questions, and there it is down, last question asked. So at least it's there. So when I and a couple other people contacted people in county government, including Dr. Branch, we attached the memo that had been sent from the State Department of Health saying that all people with IDD were in phase 1B. So then somebody I know, Kathleen Becky, who used to work with you all, talks to Dr. Branch on Monday, and he says, oh, no, they're all in phase 2. I think maybe, well, I don't know what he meant. I'm not going to assume that he meant anything. But so there's still some level of confusion.
I'm sorry.
Larry, behave yourself. You know,
I'm trying.
I'm trying not to assume or speculate in 2021. Anyway, so there still is some confusion there. The other thing that has come up many times, and I know they're doing this in Delaware, because I have a friend whose son is in his 30s, and she got a letter saying he was eligible, and so was everybody in his family, everybody he lived with. So we have a lot of people in the IDD community who have severe medical needs who are being cared for at home. My daughter doesn't have severe medical needs, but if my husband and I get sick, you know, we're out of luck because she still needs support. So I don't know if anybody's thought about that, but I'm letting you know that it's a significant need in the community of people who care for their children and their adult children at home.
Yeah, I know that we've gotten a number of concerns about that have come into the COVID email account, because I know that it has been brought up. You know, unfortunately, we're kind of at the mercy of the state on many of these guidances, but you know, we can certainly talk to Dr. Branch and the other health officers in the region. The health officers as a region, just so you understand, they're all working also together to try to make sure that we're cohesively and being equitable about the type of tiers, because it doesn't make sense for us to do something in Baltimore County if they're not doing something different in Baltimore City or Howard County or Carroll County, because what ends up happening is if, let's say, we're going to do something that they're not, their residents will come to us. And while we'll vaccinate them, most likely, we're trying not to turn anyone away, even where they're living. It can be very challenging if you have one county doing something different. That said, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. So, you know, again, all of this information, I'm going to kind of punt up the chain because I think that, oh, I got a thumbs up from Larry. Awesome.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask you one thing?
Yes.
I'm a vet, as most of you know anyway. With us, we have a thing called Caregivers Program. That's for anybody who takes care of a vet that they live with. And how that works is, if we have a function or something and that vet wants to go, the caregiver goes, we pay the caregiver. It's like a job because you're there all the time. So any expense that the caregiver has to go through to get the person that she's providing for, that cuts down a lot of the difficulties, especially with access and everything else, because different programs come up wherever they can come up now, especially if they're providing the good. So you got to look at the good and the bad and the trade-offs in between. So that kind of helps offset some of the problems. So if you got something out there, any grants out there for caregivers, and that's for somebody who provides with somebody with a disability, with a documented disability. And this is PVA. That's what we do. I said, we're one of the biggest 501c3 groups. So I figure if we're doing it and we're chartered from Congress, there got to be federal programs out there that gives that money away like that. So maybe you need to define a caregiver in your program. Then that might open up a whole brand new venue for you for help.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay.
That's a great suggestion. I think I'm
Great.
going to wind this up with this one final question. Is there a time frame in which you need to have the second shot after you had the first?
Well, the biggest issue is you don't get it too soon, which I don't think that's going to be an issue for really anybody.
Right.
If it's Pfizer vaccine, which right now the majority of our vaccine is Pfizer, it's no earlier than 21 days. So it's 21 days or after. If it's Moderna, it's 28 days or after. So it's not, it's not like an alarm clock that's going to go off if you don't get it at exactly day 21 or day 28. So it's really, that's the cutoff where you can't have it really that much sooner. We prefer you have it after. And we're doing our best when we try to book you as close to that 28 days if it's Moderna or 21 days if it's Pfizer.
I think this all sounds very good. We're thankful that you gave us all your time and you answered any questions. If there were other people that didn't have questions answered, please contact Larry or Jay or Ben and I, and we'll get to you. Thank you very much, Terry Sapp, for your time. We appreciate
Great.
that.
Thank you all very much.
Absolutely.
Hope to see you all soon.
Thank you. All right. We want to move on now to the discussion of the county approach to ADA issues concerning public infrastructure and private property. Ben, you want to speak first to that? And then I believe John and Carol are going to speak.
Yeah, so we have two guests here today, John Bryant and Carol Brown. And so we'd like to discuss some of the areas in Baltimore County. I've been acutely aware of them over the months because of getting out and walking and being on public streets and the like. Seeing shopping centers with signage. So on Baltimore County's website, there is a place to go in and file a complaint. The issue is where do these complaints go? Who sees them? And whose responsibility throughout Baltimore County to see that whether they're code violations or ADA violations, who do we talk to get remedied? Probably most of you don't know, but the code standard for ADA standard for a sidewalk is no greater than 1 inch separation between blocks or a 1/4 inch elevation of a block. So you've got a lot of cracked sidewalks, trees growing, roots growing up and raising the sidewalks. And, there's a lot out there. If you just open up your eyes and walk around, you'll see a lot of that. Also, while Terry got off the line, I've been trying for 3 weeks down in Florida to get a shot. And it appears that Maryland's a lot better shape than they are down here. We spent an hour on the internet this morning and then an hour on the phone and got locked out of wherever the locations were. So, I don't know, John, do you want to talk first? And then Carol?
Ben, that'll be fine. I've worked with you a lot. A lot of the complaints come in, they come into the site and usually I review them. The difficulty is unfortunately, I was very blessed years ago to have been mentored by Richard Calkins when he was a full-time ADA coordinator. And over the years, that position has kind of got passed around, and I volunteered to do that position as a part-time job, along with many, many other duties I have. I'm the building engineer for Baltimore County. I'm also in charge of the Baltimore County Fire and Building Code Plans Review. I'm a deputy state fire marshal, among many things, but I learned to appreciate and be an advocate thanks to Richard Calkins for ADA, so I volunteered to do that, and I am still doing that to this day. Complaints come in, and basically, I wear two hats in one aspect. The ADA coordinator is access to governmental services, which a lot of what we discuss, such as the flu vaccination clinics, senior centers, county office buildings, voting locations, and things like that. And those are basically the limitations of the ADA coordinator. We have no authority over private entities or anything along those lines because that's beyond our scope. With that said, though, however, I do wear a second hat, and that is of the building engineer for Baltimore County, in charge of the Baltimore County Building Code, which then brings in the Maryland Accessibility Code. Now, you have to remember the Maryland Accessibility Code is actually a building code. So unless a property undergoes an alteration or builds a new building or something like that, then I can go in and apply the Maryland Accessibility Code along in conjunction with the state of Maryland. Sometimes if someone requests a waiver, automatically the Baltimore County Commission on Disabilities becomes a part of that waiver process. So I'll give you an example. If you have an existing building that's been out there, not undergoing alterations or anything, I have no authority to go out there and require them to do anything. I just don't have it because I can't enforce the Maryland Accessibility Code, which is under COMAR, which is, as you know, has been moved from housing to Department of Labor Licensing and Industry. So that's how we function. And then the issue of parking through the state of Maryland, it's a little bit problematic in the sense that it's sent through highways type of thing. So we've been able to get some compliance out there, particularly if our building inspectors are out doing an interior alteration or inspection of a facility that requires ADA parking, which, as we know, they all do pretty much. If they have one parking spot, it's going to be an ADA parking spot. So at that point, we ensure they have the appropriate signs, the $156 fine, or if it's earlier, it's $152. Baltimore County Office of Budget Parking Enforcement are the ones that are going out and have stickers to place them 6 over to 52, so they have the appropriate fine amount. As far as, again, existing property just sitting there, not undergoing any alterations and not used for public use or rented by Baltimore County, becomes a real difficult situation for us to legally go out there. We'll make a phone call. We'll send Hunter Rowe out to investigate. And as you know, and we've gotten some voluntary compliance. Most of the time when a building inspector shows up, most of these property managers want to have a good working relationship with Baltimore County and usually voluntarily comply, as you know. And then again, on the public thoroughfares and right-of-ways, that comes through Carol Brown. That's where the request, I will forward that to Carol, who's the ADA liaison for Department of Public Works traffic engineer. And then Carol takes that over, and she's been extremely successful in going out and having work orders made and those corrections made accordingly along the county right-of-way and county property. So we all kind of work in conjunction with one another, but there are limitations that I have as the building engineer as well as the county ADA coordinator. And but however, we're always willing to work along and do everything within our powers to bring compliance if there's a possibility that we have that authority.
This Carol, did you want to speak? Make a few comments.
Carol's still, yeah, Carol's on. Carol?
There we go.
I think Carol has technical difficulty with audio. I don't know if
He says, I work on the right of ways. Can you read that, Jay?
yeah, I work on the right of ways at intersections of the county. I don't know, through talking to Ben and John Bryan, you know, there's probably a lot of ADA issues on sidewalks and roadways and, you know, in the public right of way as opposed to the private right of way. That can be, that's, you know, and probably in many cases, a case by case determination of, you know, where does the shopping center parking lot, you know, become private, and, you know, a lot of it probably is private. Handicap, Carol's saying she works on handicap ramps. Highways works on sidewalks. I know a lot of sidewalks in the county. I had a sidewalk built, you know, redone at my house because they repaved the road a year ago, and they put in a new ADA accessible grade and textured concrete. And I did a project on North Point Road in Dundalk, and all the intersections where the sidewalk meets the road were redone to meet ADA standards. Something that John and I talked about is that the ADA compliance is built into, you know, the DNA of Baltimore County Plans Review at this time. It is just baked into the cake. It's not perfect, but when new public works projects are undertaken, the ADA is a very well-known routine matter for compliance that is checked. Again, it's not perfect, and that is new work that comes in the door. It is different from somebody who is potentially in a condominium building, goes through a episode, an incident in their life, and they become disabled at some level, and they want to stay where they are. And then they discover that, you know, prior, you know, the ability they had prior to their incident to get around is now compromised, and the building may not have the accommodations that they wish. I have a case now where that call came in, and I talked to John Bryan about it, and we may have Hunter Rowe go out in the field. I do refer calls to John Bryan, and I am listed as a contact for the commission, and I do take those calls.
John, is there a percentage for alteration of a building where they then have to come into total compliance within a building? Let's say restrooms aren't accessible and they're doing a rehab on quite a few of the offices, but not the restrooms. At what point does the whole building have to come up to standard?
Well, okay, and this comes down to an alterations under the 2010 ADAG, which has been adopted by the state of Maryland as the State Accessibility Code, which I also adopt in the Baltimore County Building Code. And basically what happens is, first of all, is that if you touch an accessible feature, you fix it, okay? And then the next question is, under disproportionality, a maximum of 20% of your construction costs go to ADA upgrades. So let's say they renovate several offices, and this occurs quite a bit, offices on, let's say, the 6th floor of a high-rise building, and that there's deficiencies for accessibility. At that point, we're going to ask the architect, design professional, to show compliance with disproportionality, that 20% of their construction costs are going to ADA upgrades. Sometimes we've had several high-rise buildings and buildings where that was the bathrooms were concrete load-bearing walls and what have you. So what we have them do is build what we call a family or unisex ADA toilet room on that floor. We've been very successful there. Typically, a major renovation, it's hard to get the building up the entire code. However, we had Tabco Towers, which received a lot of HUD money, and which we worked very diligently and actually required them in order to get some of that funding to exceed what I could normally get under the building code, and put a lot of ADA upgrades into the Tabco Tower renovation, which, prior to those renovations, I had a lot of deficiencies. I know the elevators were problematic in that building. And as a result of that, I put an amendment in our Baltimore County Building Code, which to my knowledge is the only one in the state of Maryland, that if you have a elevator, one or more elevators in a building, that elevator is required to be accessible for rescue litter for an ambulance, required for phase 2 firefighter service, or required to be part of an accessible route. That one elevator must be accessible and operational the entire time while the building is occupied. Prior to me putting that in the building code, I had the privilege of writing a $30,000 fine for the management firm who had Tabco Towers prior to the renovation. And when I told his building manager that over the phone, and he was in the other end, he went quite silent. And I think within like 3 days, that one elevator was repaired back in service within 3 days. If I would have gotten challenged on that 30,000, I know what would have happened. But I took it all the way back from the first day we went out there and requested the elevator be put in service. So now we actually have those provisions in the building code. I was talking to our Office of Law this past Friday. As you can tell, I'm working from home. The county office building has a substantial outbreak of COVID, so we're all telecommuting from home. But I have been talking to our Office of Law. There's a building on the east side of the county that county executive and PAI and I assume planning as well as Office of Law taking an interest in, and we were going over some of the things we can do, including in this case, in the elevator and certain back in service and legally enforced on existing buildings. And we'll be doing those things.
John, thank you.
Any other questions that anybody has with regard to compliance? So the bottom line is really to be, kind of the eyes and ears of the community. And if you see something, say something, and either send John a direct email or go to the Baltimore County portal and file a complaint through their portal and see if we can make the county a better place for everybody to live in.
Ben, you have done a good job of that over the years. Thank you. Okay, do we want to move on to the next topic, legislation?
Yeah, Terry, I mean, I've gone through this. There's a lot of legislation which I guess the Maryland DD Council has put together, and they do have a lot of information that I think Terry has shared with the whole commission, and it has legislation which is of priority and non-priority types of issues. And the best thing is to look at that. We can send you the link again to look at that listing. There's 2 different listings there, and some of them, really are applicable to our population that we serve. There's a lot of educational items in there, as well as issues with respect to living types of situations. And so I did. Actually, if you go to md-council.org, it brings up Developmental Disabilities Council, and under the ribbon at the top says policy. If you click on that, you'll find policy and legislation, and there you'll find 2 items, priority legislation and legislation to monitor. So it does talk about quite a few issues that our commission has an interest in.
Thank you. Any other legislation? If anyone does have legislation that you want the commission to support, what we've done in the past is send that piece of legislation to Jay with a short explanation of what it is, and have the people on each committee and their email addresses so that we can quickly get out the individual support, and at some point we can even vote on it as a committee. Doug, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be approved or already approved, but I just wanted to bring up Appendix K, which is emergency funding through the Medicaid waiver or Medicare waiver. And what that does is that allows providers to continue to provide services right now virtually and other ways that, is very important right now. And I believe that's going to be continued. It's due to expire in March, but that may be something that, if need be, we want to put a voice behind to support that.
And our voices are heard, and I think that if we do say something as a commission, it's a loud statement. Jay, did you want to say something?
I'll just weigh in on that real quick. I
Go ahead,
think,
Greg.
and actually Kathleen might know this as well. I think that what I heard was that when the state of emergency is lifted, that Appendix K will stay in effect for, I think it's 6 months after the state of emergency is listed.
Correct.
So there is a little bit of security in that they're just not going to pull the rug out from under us.
Right.
And so that doesn't even, who knows when the state of emergency is even going to be lifted, but we have a little bit of stability.
Right, we do
with
have.
that.
Right.
Yeah, good comment, but keep us in abreast of that so we can be supporting that if we need to. That's great. Any other legislation? Okay, I just had a couple quick announcements. This Friday on Dr. Fauci's website, he's going to have a seminar talking about fears and questions that people may have during the vaccine. There are a lot of fears that people are going through. I'll have Jay post that and send that out. Also, the Maryland Council for Independent Living. Everyone on the commission, and we'll get back to this soon, is supposed to be either on a committee or representing someone on a commission or another organization. The Maryland Council for Independent Living have been having a difficulty functioning, I'll put it that way. And they're looking for people with disabilities to submit their resumes. And if you want to look up, and again, I will send this out, the Maryland Council for Independent Living. Mike Bullis knows a lot about this also. I think that's a great way for your voice to be heard. And last, the Department of Disabilities is going to have an important training and information on how assistive technology, again, can combat social isolation. This is something that's going to continue. I hear this from people all the time, and support them while they're at home and being independent. That's going to be on February the 17th at 2 p.m. And again, I'll send that out. I think that any kind of a tool that we can provide our people out there to maintain some type of normalcy in their life, I think it's good to share, so that not only can we make phone calls just to check in on people, which I try to do 1 or 2 every day. I think it's great for people to have tools to work through this dire time in their lives. Any other announcements? Thank you for approving the last 3 minutes. And Doug, we thank you. Jay, we thank you so much for all the work you do. I think I must email him every day, and I'm not sure that you're happy when you see another email coming from me or not, but thanks for putting up with all my questions. I really appreciate it. Okay, any other questions? I'm trying to think of the date of the next commission meeting will be February 17th, which is Ash Wednesday. And we hope everyone stays safe. Anybody else have any questions? Then I shall call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Carol Brown has left the meeting.